How are you guys doing? 4 o'clock and the room is still full. Pretty energizing. You guys are as excited about these topics as we are. And we've been talking a lot about marketing, where we think it's going, the fact that it's exploding as it does so, that it's fragmenting. And wanted to get two people that we respect a lot up on stage to discuss their impressions of the day and some of the things that they think are important. So joining me up on stage here is going to be Valerie Davis, who's Vice President of Search Media for PM Digital, and Nick Brien, who is CEO of iCrossing. How are you doing?
Good.
Good day so far?
Very well. Thank you.
Great content, good speakers.
Thank you very much for joining me up here on stage. Would be great if you could just introduce yourselves and a little bit about your company to kick it off.
I'm Nick Brien. I'm the CEO of iCrossing. iCrossing is the integrated marketing agency, and we're owned by Hearst. Many of you in the room know Hearst. We really are, I'm always excited to say, a category of one. We're about the only significant international integrated marketing agency owned by a media, entertainment, and content company. They acquired iCrossing 4 years ago. Its roots, which is why we're here, were in search, and everyone associates the company with that. And since I've arrived a year ago, putting a lot of effort in terms of developing and broadening the capability set, and certainly making sure that we can operate throughout the funnel. So this model, we just heard from the Honest Company about new models for a new world. We talk about ourselves as the marketing agency for a modern world. And the modern world is obviously one that really does reject the notion that you cannot be in both the performance business and the brand building business. You just need to have the right skills, systems, and capabilities to be able to do it. So that's us.
So PM Digital is actually an internet digital performance agency. We have 300 employees, 7 offices. We actually just recently in January created a partnership to go global with our clients as well. We have a lot of global brands, and we wanted to make sure that we were able to service them globally, and so we're really excited about that. And the key thing for us is really just driving performance. So it's, we got our roots in search as well, but agreed that we've moved into multi-channels. I was actually a client before, PM Digital's client before I actually worked for them. So we're just really excited to continue to bring results to our clients, leveraging Kenshoo.
Great. I think
I should have said that as well, by leveraging Kenshoo. By leveraging Kenshoo, that's our secret sauce. If that was implicit...
Right answer.
Sorry. I meant
thank you. So, you've got a perspective across, obviously, a lot of different clients and brands that you work with, and would love to get your thoughts, maybe Valerie, from you first, on, as we've heard throughout the day, consumers are using an increasing number of publishers, and there's different opportunities out there for advertisers to reach them. What does it mean in this fragmented world to be relevant to consumers and potential customers? What does it mean to be present wherever a customer is and reach your audiences?
Well, I'm just going to say everything. The answer is everything. It means everything. I really wanted to take we talked a lot today about the, fragmented world of publishers across channels, social and search mainly. And we talked about the full funnel, just focusing even, considering the access that people have today. We're talking about cross-device, but just thinking beyond the search box and beyond social, the way consumers are, responding to brands. If you even look at the lowest part of the in-market funnel, where the demand is, there's multiple touch points just even in that. And so there's fragmentation in that, whether it's mobile to desktop in search or going from search to Facebook. I know that Tiffany was, speaking earlier about how social drives brand lift in search queries. We see that, but we also see it the other way. Leveraging Kenshoo, we're creating audiences that we're leveraging in Facebook, and I think the interaction, we're seeing Facebook sometimes starts first because people are searching for products or wanting to know what their friends think of these products. So it really sometimes doesn't even start in Google search. It starts somewhere else. So for us, being relevant is key. And then on top of all of that, you have the noise of the market, so in the competition. So for us as an agency, we invest a lot of our time in technology and piping, like APIs for bid indexing on weather or sports, to make sure that we're relevant and we're in the know and that we're boosting our bids at the right time. So for us, our investment is tied to relevance. I mean, that's really our secret sauce.
I'll add to that that I think I believe there is another dimension of opportunity in the world of fragmentation, because we talk about fragmentation as a very bad thing. I think it's a challenging thing. It's a challenge, but it offers huge opportunity because we're able to get everything that digital media and digital marketing always offered, which was the addressability, the personalization, the measurability, and all the dynamism of that. And now we stop talking and should and need to stop talking so much about the piping and the plumbing and the automation, because the power of what computers can do and computing, it is amazing. It's great for math. It's great for calculation. It's great for lifting. We just saw Amanda's demonstration on stage, not just of her unbelievable spirit and determination. I love that, that sentiment of being an active co-creator as opposed to a passive consumer, and the way she applied it. Well, the technology can do that. The technology cannot be creative yet. It can't adapt for conceptual thinking. We can. Humans can. And one of the things that I believe that we need to do is get a better balance between our people and our processes and our technology to make sure we think about the engagement. We think about how we're not just conquering the sort of math challenge of aggregating audiences across every single device and bombarding them. I liked what we were just hearing about from the Honest Company, that they're all subscribers. They're all young parents, and they subscribe it, so they eat their own dog food, and they wonder if they're just going to get bombarded again and again and again. How many times have I hit unsubscribe to Banana Republic? It chases me wherever I go. Bam, ba, bam, ba, bam. I mean, I sent permission-based marketing. It was written 11 years ago to the CMO. I haven't heard back. Because you just want to have a mentality that we're thinking not just about the delivery, but the reception. What are people left with? If we're going to be consumer first, and we know that we want to drive engagement, it's not just about reach, because the more effective we are in terms of deepening engagement, the more likely we are to be able to initiate the behavior that we want. So I'm very excited about where we go in search, in social, leveraging digital media in its role, however, not just to affect and optimize the click or the conversion, but to think about the brand and how we're building the brand equity. Because this is something that isn't part of a lot of the conversation with some of the performance marketing clients I work with, which is the value of a brand equity. It only costs 30% more to create a Mercedes-Benz over a Ford, and yet it's sold at 130% more. So that equity has been built over so many years. It's valuable, very, very valuable. And now I believe that if we're thinking about engagement and not worrying just about audiences, then we have a really tremendous opportunity to marry the power of digital marketing in conjunction with everything else to build brand equity. I think it's very important.
And when I hear you say that, I mean, I think brands become stories, right? And the opportunities that are getting created in some of the presentations we heard earlier is about these immersive experiences that we can start to create together. Even in channels and publishers where we thought we knew what the ad should look like, we have much more depth now in how we can tell the story. But it also creates an additional problem, which is a story is most effective when told in an integrated way, in a connected way across the different channels. How do you think that leading marketers should be thinking about connecting that story and telling something that consumers can grab onto and believe in?
Well, again, I think it's tied to relevance. You know, one of our clients, Vineyard Vines, which is a very strong brand, they connect themselves to the good life. You know, it's like they talk about the good life and everything is about, you know, enjoying life and being out there. I mean, Amanda just showed us today how to enjoy life no matter what, and just get out there and be an inspiration to people. She really, you know, I think I left here crying because it was just amazing. So with the Vineyard Vines, they align themselves with the Kentucky Derby and the moments in time, and really going after targets of people who are enjoying the parties and just being there. So I think leveraging, for us, we're leveraging all of the channels, media, publishing, and video engagement, but we're telling the story of the good life and how people are enjoying the life. And it's about, preparing for that party, the Kentucky Derby, whether you're going there or you're going to a party, and really just living the good life every day. So I think that's a brand that I have inspiration. There's obviously another brand that I have a strong affinity to as well, in terms of just telling a story and aligning themselves with, getting after it and being strong and, just being a better you. And I think just really pulling those brands out and making sure that, to what Nick was saying earlier, is that building on those brand equities and those themes and storytelling it through. I know we had in one of the breakouts, we talked about like the storytelling or the storyboarding through the channels and the things that you can control, and there are some that you can't, but just making sure you're careful about at least making sure the message is aligned a bit with those brands. And again, just being where, making sure that you're going after the right audience. We talked a lot about customer first and audiences, and I just throw out there, it's also got to be about one-to-one marketing too. It's got to be like, it's not just an audience and that group of audiences. I think we're getting better about it, but we also have to think about, 10% of your customers are typically worth 90% of your revenue, is like for most companies, right? So it's really making sure that you're talking to them on that one-on-one basis.
I'll add to that I think it is about doing things better, but it's also about doing things differently, because we can definitely optimize and improve upon the cadence of our storytelling. You talk about it from a connected way. I think being more connected is so important in such a fragmented world, because otherwise brands become schizophrenic. They're doing one thing on TV, they're doing one thing in print, they're doing another thing in digital, and it doesn't hang together. And a brand is a sum total of your experiences with it, and that's as much the customer experience. And I think that as we think about in our own organization, because we offer across all the channels, is you need systems thinking. Modern day marketing needs a system, a strategic system, because what is marketing? It's selling at scale. That's what it is. That's what we're trying to do. We turn suspects into a prospect, into a buyer, and into an advocate. And to be able to do that in the most efficient way, you need to have a system and a process to do it. But also, it's not just about storytelling. We talk a lot in our agencies about storytelling and experiences, because the technology is providing the level of innovation to do amazing things. What we saw earlier on the stage with Amanda was facilitated by someone's amazing creativity through technology advances. Because you can do whatever marketing activities you want, and you can create a lot of drama about the brand, a lot of excitement, but when you call the Uber and the app doesn't work, or it's late, or it sends you to a different street and the car driver's on another street, it's the technology, it's the infrastructure. And one of the things that I think is so important for the brand now, because we talk a lot about the brand in a one-dimensional way, it's multi-dimensional. Brand as publisher, brand as utility, brand as service, brand as beacon, brand as product differentiator, brand as value add, brand that knows me. Because we're not even talking about millennials now. When I heard that stat earlier, that the millennials are now at drinking age, okay, let's dial it down into another generation. You have their data. They know it. I mean, I go online. I looked at a black cashmere jumper for my mother. I didn't want to buy it. It chases me wherever I go, whichever site I go. And it's the same one. Did I buy it? It doesn't know. Because someone's measuring the fact that there's a click, 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 and Nick Brien keeps getting bombarded by the same black cashmere jumper. But actually, I really wanted pink. And had they listened to me, then I would have been able to have that response. And I think the technology needs to do a better job, and we need to be thinking about that. I tell you, I say this from personal experience with a client situation that we just inherited. And all of the online activity was basically an online catalog. The CRM was just morbid. It was dull. There was nothing inspiring. And the creativity in advertising has always been about storytelling and the amazing way that we can persuasively tell stories to engage our ideal customers. And why would the web experience, or why would the mobile experience not match that? Why would it just be focused on functionality and not on emotion? Because we know that people don't make decisions with their brains. They make decisions with their hearts, and they justify it with their minds. So what we need to do is, I think, this combination of storytelling and user experiences, I think, are absolutely critical to go hand in hand in this connected world.
Both of those perspectives resonate a lot with me. And to challenge, the question is, in a world where there seem to be more and more walled gardens here, where the amount of data that's being shared about audiences, the amount of information and ability to port some of this across the different mediums that would be key to delivering on that story that you just described, is it even possible to do the things that you're talking about?
It is possible. It's still too hard. I'm not sure we get all the right data at the right time, in the right way, collecting it, because there's a lot of conversation about collecting data. And I'm interested not in the data and the analytics, I'm interested in the insights, because I think the insights guide us. But what they can also do, which I think is a unique opportunity for us in this age, is to turn audiences into customers. Because audiences are anonymous, largely. I mean, again, we've got sort of, full identity with Facebook, but to a large extent, if I think about publishers in a classic way, or broadcasters, they are viewers or readers, and they're essentially anonymous. And I think our great magic is when we can turn media audiences into marketing customers. When the media engines start to drive marketing platforms, that's where I think the data, we're talking about using the data in a really, really smart way, becomes fantastic. So whilst it's hard, it's getting better every single day.
Yeah, the data is foundational, the insights that you draw from. I think even now, in this fragmented world, I think we've done a lot with some of our clients, again, because we we have to drive performance. It's not just about branding for us, unfortunately. We're able to drive insights and building the pipes that we have done with Kenshoo and other third parties to drive the insights and make deductive decisions, like just making sure that we're going after, like, looking at mobile, pulling mobile brand off, turning off mobile or brand ads on mobile, and then seeing the impact of it and turning it back on, and just understanding that cross-device. So we have the insights that we're getting on the cross-device conversions, but we're not able to link them to what it means across the entire path, but we know it means something. And I think it's, foolish for marketers to think, everyone's saying, we just in the Honest Company, and they talked about in the session earlier about, mobile revenues lagging. Is it really? I don't think mobile revenue's lagging. I think mobile's driving revenue for companies. And if you're not being there and you're not in mobile, you're not going to get your revenue later on the desktop, anywhere else, or on mobile later on. So I know that that connective tissue is missing for it, but I think it would be remiss of all marketers not to just be actioning those insights and going after it, because we've definitely, for some clients where we've benchmarked, we've seen the difference when we're turning mobile on and off, whether it's on brand product, non-brand. So I don't think revenue is lagging in mobile. I think mobile is driving revenue. So.
One point I'd make on the storytelling, we talk about communications a lot. A lot of the conversation here has been about the channel, the contact, and the content. I think the third dimension is context. And the contextuous, from the Latin word, how things are made, there's not enough consideration. It concerns me a bit that each medium has its own, each contact, each channel has its own contextual power. And the context is also not just environment, but also time. The idea that we can geofence where people are, when they're going, the use of beacons, it's getting so exciting. So I just think that when we're talking about communications, it is not just the content and the channel, but the contextual dynamic as well. Because I think in that regard, we're thinking more along the lines of conversation. And we're thinking not just about push-based marketing on an interruptive basis. We're imagining that we are trying to solicit a conversation. And I love that, based on what the previous conversation was about, in terms of really being customer first and adapting the power of what CRM and the power of relationship marketing was all about, was the interactivity of a conversation. Not just a push-based monologue, but something that you really want to dialogue. And we have to think more about the receptivity, not just transmission. Because the media industry, and this is something your tools and your systems are working hard to think about as well now, especially as you move more into the social space, is how the art of conversation and the brand being able to manage that delicacy, that becomes a huge source of advantage, in my opinion.
It's relevance. It's tied to relevance.
What excites me a lot about what you're saying is that it feels like performance marketing and some of the ways that we've thought about the channels that we've been in is growing up. It's no longer about the tactics of making you successful in individual places. It's about thinking more strategically about marketing and the message that you're ultimately trying to deliver. And I think that creates a ton of opportunities for us. In some of what we've heard here today in terms of the future of marketing, what we should be thinking of a year, 2 years, 3 years ahead, we've talked about in Tom's presentation, some of the augmented reality, a lot of things still to come in mobile. I mean, where do you see the big opportunities for marketers coming down the line?
For me, the two big areas, especially with the digital and the arrival of more and more amazing technology, when we think about, as you say, AR, VR and the Internet of Things and wearables, is to both deepen the brand experience, strengthen the brand experience through the interactivity of those experiences. So that's one element. So you could talk about the digital content, let's call it not just in the addressable middle funnel, but how that drives people to other experiences. So that just resonates, and that does help me build and strengthen my brand equity. So the brand is vital, it's dynamic, it's building. And then the other area is commerce. And I thought it was very interesting when we talk about content to commerce, because I've got a lot of the big brand marketeers, not so much the performance marketers, who are now leaning into digital, and they're not necessarily leaning into digital because they want to either deepen or diversify necessarily the brand experience. They need to be e-com ready. And they are nervous because you've got Amazon there as a huge, huge player, 25% of all sales, 75% of all global e-commerce sales. And they're just a gorilla in the jungle. And how are these classic brand marketeers who have been slow to embrace digital media, they're coming in because now there is a proxy, rightly or wrongly, and there's people like Scott Galloway, if you don't know, if you look at the L2 survey, he's publishing indexes of categories, whether you want to be in it or not, that judges your digital readiness. And that is a proxy for business competitiveness. And if you are marked down as a laggard, as someone who's not leaning in and not sophisticated, whether it be your web load, e-commerce, mobile strategy, search, social, there is now almost an immediate judgment that you're not going to be ready for the e-commerce monster business opportunity that's on its way. So those are the two dynamics for me.
Again, just drawing on one of the breakouts when we talk about channel shift and the big brands and their investments in TV, and I think that we're seeing that huge shift to digital, not just in social but across the display ecosystem for us. I know that a lot of our clients are reinvesting their TV dollars and even their catalog dollars for the performance marketers into commerce. And so for me, I think what resonated was like the personal shopper, or what I think is really going to happen. We're very rooted in e-commerce, our agency. But I really feel that the personal shopper and the virtual reality and being able to track that in store is going to be really important for us. But in terms of innovation, I think video, we talk a lot about video. I think it's new. Like, I think, it's new, and you're seeing a lot of clicks. I know Kenshoo created those stats of like the clicks on videos or the views. But eventually that's going to have to be relevant too, right? I think it's just the interaction and the engagement people are having within their page. It's relevant to them because their friends are posting it. And so I just think where video is going, we just need to make sure that it stays relevant, and that as we're trying to scale it, that we just keep it innovative. So I mean, for me, I'm all about just driving the performance. So I'm not looking at the big virtual. I know we talked a little bit prior to doing this, this talk, and I was like, I don't know if I really want to talk so much about the innovation of a virtual reality world and where that's going. For me, it's in the here and the now, and the innovation of making sure that we have the data to draw our clients' business forward.
I think building on that, though, there's another, now we're talking about VR, and we're talking about, last week we had a big message with the global Unilever team that came, and we were talking about messaging and the unbelievably swift rise, and different players, whether it be Kik or WeChat or Messenger in different parts of the world. Now another major phenomenon that's come so very, very fast. I don't think, our challenge is not about reaching people. The issue is where and when. And I think this notion that we have to be very choiceful and deliberate about when we seek to engage, because if we all want to own the path to purchase, and we're all very clear on what the consumer journey is, we're doing all the studies, we're looking at the stats, then how are we being very choiceful about which are those moments of the highest potential? Where are they? And what is the sequence of them? I think a lot, this is more and more a strategic challenge for our industry and less of a technology or one of computing power. Because I think we are in danger of fragmentation not having just a significant impact on audiences, but on our industry. Because the danger is that everyone gets trapped in the weeds of the complexity because it's becoming atomic. The media and marketing industry is becoming atomic, subatomic. It's breaking down into little particles, each one that can become so time-consuming. So the danger is we lose perspective and we're sucked into the minutiae. And there's a bigger strategic challenges that we've got to be talking about, which is where should we be? And this is a notion, I think, for the last, it's been driven a lot by the big media AORs that happened last summer, but for the last 5 or 6 years, I feel that so much of the focus has been on efficiency, not on effectiveness. And we should be deciding what the right thing is to do strategically from an effectiveness point of view and then execute with ruthless efficiency, as opposed to everything being about efficiency.
And I think that's where it's going, and that's precisely why I think when we talked about the mobile revenue and how it's lagging, I don't think it's lagging. I think it's very effective. So it may not be as efficient, but it is effective, and it does drive the efficiency down funnel. So I agree wholeheartedly, but in a different way, perhaps.
Do we have time for a couple questions? All right. Anybody want to ask? It's late in the day. Thinking about those drinks.
I think that's the first question you want to ask. Is anyone interested in asking a question? Then do we have time? Do it that way, man.
Maybe while they're thinking of that, I mean, one question that I do have as you paint that picture of, you're talking about messaging, and you're talking about some of the ways that, even Bing is starting to incorporate search in different ways into Windows 10, et cetera. Do you see search evolving in completely different ways in the next couple of years as a result of some of these changes?
I do. I mean, we talked a little bit about voice search, to your point, with Windows 10 and Siri, and we actually explored it in terms of query reports and seeing how, what's happening there. And, volumes are so low. But what's really interesting about voice search, someone said the death of the keyword, that's why dynamic search ads exists for Google today. I think that search, this keyword is going to go away at some point in the future, and I think it's going to be beyond the search box, and it's going to be people speaking to their phones, and every query is going to be different. Google used to state 20% of every query they saw was new each day. I think the numbers are going to go up just because of the way people are using technology today and the access they have. So I definitely think search is, we don't, as an agency, we don't think of search as search engines anymore. We think about it as customers seeking out a solution to their problem. So whether it's to buy a product or deciding they want to go back to school or get insurance. So for us, it's not about the search box, and that's why it's really exciting to see the integration with social, but also understanding the importance of making sure that we try to solve that fragmented publisher situation, because we want to be where those consumers are, and we want to be relevant to them at the time that we need to be.
Any last questions? All right. I want to thank you very much for coming up here.